Well, I guess we might as well start. We're waiting on Mark, but we'll get started with Franco. And
Hi, I'd like to thank the planning board for having us here tonight. My name is Franco Zani. I am the wastewater collection system supervisor for the town of Poughkeepsie. This to my left is Sean Crimmins. He's a town engineer. Behind me is Keith Ballard, water superintendent. Tommy Colgan, the assistant water superintendent, and my assistant hiding in the back, Eddie Place. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to pull up some maps for you to look at. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask.
Sounds good. Thanks.
You want to start with Fog Hill?
Yeah, why don't you pull up the whole map for the town of Poughkeepsie first. Okay. Let's show them the whole. What we're going to do is this first map.
Right away here.
What you're looking at is this is the whole town of Poughkeepsie. And what you're looking at is all those little green symbols. There you go. There's the whole town of Poughkeepsie. Wherever there's you'll see it's all shaded in green. They're all manholes throughout the town of Poughkeepsie. You can see there's what we do is our collection system is about 100 miles long. It's a little over there's about 1,000 manholes in the town. We feed 3 sewer districts. We feed City Poughkeepsie Sewer Plant, which we are partial owners of, 100% of Arlington, and then we are part owners of Tri-Muni in the Southern District there. So they're your 3 main districts, Arlington being the biggest in the middle. Down in the purple, you'll see there's the Tri-Muni. Outlined in red, you'll see Arlington. And as Sean scrolls down, you'll see 4th Ward Sewer, which all goes to the City of Poughkeepsie. So we have a pretty big district. We are not 100%. We are probably about 70% municipal sewer through the town. And you can see there's a lot of empty lots there that do not have municipal sewer. Any questions so far?
What was the north section called again?
That's 4th Ward in the blue.
Oh, 4th Ward.
That's 4th Ward sewer. That all goes to the city treatment plant.
Got it.
What's interesting in this is, as the planning board goes forward, what our obstacles are is when there are easements that are granted. Some of these easements go through the wood line and follow streams, and there are some of them that are inaccessible. So in cases of where we would have a sewer backup, I have to pull a rabbit out of my hat to figure out how we're going to get in there to clear the sewer blockage. What Sean is going to pull up for you, we have a sewer easement that runs from, everybody knows where Butcher Bob's is on Salt Point Turnpike. That follows the Falk Hill. You can see it right there on the map. Sean will put the arrow to it, and it runs all the way up to the Gables. It follows the stream. There is no access to that sewer main. We've been working for the past 2.5 years with Army Corps.
Yeah, to get a wetland disturbance permit so we can get in there. The biggest issue is that there are a number of wetlands like around the proximity of that trunk line, and the town of Poughkeepsie doesn't own the property that would allow us to get in there. It's owned by Dutchess Community College. So the idea was to get or acquire an easement through the parking lot here, right out the back, and then work our way down to the trunk line, and then essentially just reestablish an access road. We do have an easement, I believe it's 30 feet in width, and we would just basically need to reinforce that easement with some stones, some filter fabric, just so that in the event that one of these manholes has an overflow, we can get down there quickly, because the worst thing that could happen is we have an overflow and then we have a wetland and we have a catastrophe. We have to get down there fast and make a mess in the process. So that's one of the projects that we're trying to work on. We did something similar to this over at Vassar Farms. It took about 2 years to establish that easement. There was originally an access road back there, but we went in and we put a lot of stone down, and now you can essentially drive a flusher truck throughout that easement and do any type of maintenance needed.
So basically, with Vassar, we could actually attack the sewer from both sides. The problem that we have is coming in from the north side is we have 2 ponds. One is a man-made one, and one has been naturally there forever. If Sean, you could pull it up on a map. The problems we have there are beavers. And what the beavers do is they keep damming it up and they keep impinging on our sewer. The more dams they build, the lake is actually getting bigger.
There we go.
What you're looking at right here is the Vassar Farm sewer easement. It goes through the ecological preserve. It actually takes all the flow from Hinman Boulevard on 55 all the way down, goes through Vassar College, and eventually it works its way down to the Spagkill Pump Station and Arlington Treatment Plant.
And this was that easement that we ended up going through and putting down some stone, and now it's fairly substantial. If there's any issue in that trunk line, we should be able to get there fairly quickly and be able to mitigate any issue that we have.
Where is Hooker Avenue?
Excuse me?
Where is Hooker Avenue on this map?
To the north of the.
I'll pull it up.
Right there.
This is Zach's Way.
There's Carriage Hill, or that's Arbor.
And this is Hooker.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you can see everything there goes through the Vassar College property.
Just to let you know, we are under a DEC consent order to alleviate a lot of I&I issues within the sewer system. We had some overflows that happened in 2014. The DEC came to us and said that we had to alleviate a lot of these issues. So we have spent quite a bit of money in studies and TV inspections and trenchless repairs, and Franco and his crew have been fixing manholes. You can see these manholes in yellow are the new manholes that we've mapped. The pink manholes are the manholes that we had listed before in the old program, but just to let you know, the intent of the town of Poughkeepsie and its DPW is to eventually map all of the infrastructure in the town. So when these guys retire in the future, the new supervisors would be able to have a tablet, go out into the field, and then see exactly where all the pipes are, because a lot of the maps are falling apart.
Yeah, I know it was all paper maps historically. I'm surprised you have this level of detail in the maps already. GIS locating, I guess.
Yeah.
Overlaid it.
Yeah, we've been working on this for a while. We did have a couple interns that did map the water system. When Keith comes up here, I can pull that up. And we're slowly trying to get the drainage system together. And that's kind of tedious because there's a lot of pipes that no one even knew were there.
Stormwater stuff, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just an update. And this is going to be a couple years to get this program finalized, but in the long run, it'll be
Can you just define I&I for the board? So everybody knows.
Inflow and infiltration. It stands for any surface waters or groundwater that gets inside of the sewer system and then eventually overflows the plant. Like, for instance, in the last couple of days, we've had a lot of rain. Normally, the plant runs at about 2.5 million gallons a day. A few days ago, it spiked up to 6.9 million gallons as a flow rate, as a window. That's not throughout the entire day. That was just a snapshot of the peak rate. Typically, a peak rate would be between 3.5 to 4 million gallons, but that's quite a jump. And not to take too much time up, but one of the main contributors to I&I is sump pumps. So in the future, if you ever have the opportunity for looking at a building and they're rehabbing it, that would be the perfect opportunity to make sure that the sump pumps are disconnected from any sanitary lateral.
Okay. So that's a big part of that infiltration.
Yes.
Yes.
No matter how much work we do out in the field, we can't mitigate the sump pumps without actually physically going inside of every person's home, and that gets very complicated.
Do you know if new construction, like we're building Eastdale Village out there and stuff, is that mandated by building codes to separate that, or?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
They do.
So it's all pre-existing stuff mainly, that's.
Yes, exactly.
One thing going forward, the planning board, I'd like to mention is that as you guys, just projects come before you and they're looking for easements, once the easement is granted, there is no perpetual care. So what happens, like with this fall kill easement, this has been allowed to be overgrown for 30 years. Now, you gotta remember, I only got myself, my secretary, and 8 guys that work for me, and it takes a lot of work to clear an easement, year after year. With Vassar Farms, we have to get in there and we've been mowing it, we mow it 3-4 times a year just to maintain access. But going forward, what I'd like you to do is think about perpetual care, because these developers come in, they wanna build these projects, and then they just wanna walk away from them, and they leave us holding the bag. That make sense?
Yep.
So that's something that we could build into the easement agreements?
Yes.
Yeah.
One other thing I might want to mention, just because this is coming down the pipe pretty soon, is for the Eastdale project, we have to extend a sanitary force main. Let me just blow this up here. This black dotted line represents a force main that originates on Van Wagner. It's basically going to serve the Eastdale project. Right now, it serves the Wiltsey subdivision. It serves the Lutheran Care Center. And we did run an analysis of their flows, and we found out that this section of pipe is going to have a hard time keeping up with the flow after Eastdale is completely built out at its projected flow rate. At its peak value, might have a hard time. So our intention, and we did get grant money with cooperation from Sue Serino and Kirchhoff and our efforts, and we're going to extend this force main down Tucker Drive. It's going to be an 8-inch diameter force main, go up Friendly Lane, go down Tucker Drive here, and then go down Friendly Lane, and then connect into the main trunk line that would be able to handle the flow. Now, one thing I should mention is that I know that over by the Frank's Nursery building, there was talk of having this developed, but through a litigation, we were forced to put a 10-inch pipe in to try to mitigate some type of issue that we had with the building on top of a sewer pipe. So all I'm getting at is if we do have this force main that's going down Tucker Drive, because that's a landfill, it might be a good idea for a lot of those other residents and our commercial businesses in there to have little pump stations or whatnot to tie into this force main, because then eventually we know that this whole Tucker Drive area is going to be an issue in the future because the pipes are constantly settling because it's on top of a landfill. I figured if we're having a workshop, I might as well just mention that and just make you guys aware.
Is there a way to flag the lots in that area through the system so that if something comes up, we can be reminded that a pump station or a tie into that force main would be required?
Yeah. I know with the Munis program, whenever there's a building permit that's filed, we do have the opportunity to put a flag up and just like a note, something in the future. So
That might be a good idea.
yeah,
And that would work.
yeah.
Any questions so far?
Yeah, I have a question. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I was just hearing about the city plant, like all the plants on the Hudson River, when it rains, they get a huge overflow. We have a big project, Hudson Heritage, which you're aware of, is coming online. The plant hasn't serviced that much from that location for 20 years, probably 250,000 gallons, and we've got coming down. Is there anything that can be done to mitigate that extra 250,000 gallons a day now before they get their final approval?
The problem you have with the city and the city treatment plant is they're a combined sewer system, so they take stormwater and sewer.
Yeah.
Our sewer for Arlington and Tri-Muni is just sanitary only. If you took the storm sewer off, I know City of Newburgh just got cited for that. It's a $42 million project to do that. You could probably bankrupt the city of Poughkeepsie by doing that. Because they would have to separate their stormwater and their sewer. I don't think they want to go that route.
Okay, so there's really no practical way.
Not for the city. Right now, the town of Poughkeepsie, our flows, our last month, our monthly flow through the city plant was only at 22%. which wasn't bad, and it was a wet month. Sometimes that jumps up. I've seen it up as high as 30, 35, 38%. So, but usually during the summer months, it's down low. Flows will greatly reduce after Marist College graduates next week and Vassar colleges, and the colleges are down, but then it all starts up again in the fall. So, some pumps are the biggest contributors to the problems.
Yeah, I was just going to mention to Peter, we discussed the sump pumps just before you came in. It's a big part of the infiltration. But at least new building codes, it's not happening anymore.
Correct.
Do you know about approximately what year or when those codes changed that they can't?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But we have it in there. The problem is unless a homeowner invites the sewer department in because of a backup, and then we see, I can tell you right now that myself, water department, and highway, we have no enforcement authority. So basically, we just turn it over to the building department, and they cite the homeowner.
Okay.
But basically, as far as the sewer department, our responsibility is the sewer main and sewer main only, unless the homeowner invites us in to see what kind of damage was done from a sewer overflow. And most of the times, it's because either there was a backup on a property, their sewer lateral, and then their sump pump ejected, and it forced all of their own sewer back into their house. We see a lot of that, and that's how we catch them. Any other questions?
Yeah, we have Shadybrook, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yes.
It's coming up. I don't know whether they're going to have a master meter there or they're going to have individual lines to each pad. Is there a preference, do you think, that we should be thinking about?
What we're looking at right now, me and Andy, we've looked at the plan. What we're going to do is we want to relocate the pump station here. And I'm not sure whether, if they have a master meter, all their sewer would be billed on their water usage.
Right.
So it would all go through pump station. Right now, what they want to do is just send us gray water. Because they're so close to the Wappingers Creek, I'm kind of inclined to have them put in a full-blown pump station, lift station type, vacuum prime, Smith & Loveless, because that pump station will take all their solids. Their problem is, what we've seen so far is they only want to do 1,000-gallon trash tank, whatever that is. I think it's a solids holding tank. It's not big enough, not for 67 units.
And to answer your question, Peter, right now there's a master water meter, and generally, we haven't decided on this yet, but generally the sewer is billed based on the water usage.
Right. But my only concern was, having individual laterals for each pad for the sewer, because it's in a floodplain. Is there any suggestions you might have, anything that we should be extra cautious about?
As far as the sewer, I mean, if we relocate the pump station, there shouldn't be an issue with it, but, I mean, as far as being so close to the creek, I don't know what we could do there.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Is there any areas in the town that the sewers, the piping, whatever, is old and any danger of being compromised?
Yeah, it's all kind of old. It was all put in the 50s. As this area up here has grown and has been built out, Spatkill Pump Station, that's, right now we're under, like Sean said, we're under the DC consent order, but it's actually original. It's only been upgraded once. There's actually no room for it to be upgraded anymore. So we're actually looking at a new pump station, and that cost is anywhere between $4 and $7 million.
Is Country Club still perking away?
Country Club, what we did with Country Club Estates, the plant was so old that we abandoned the plant, and what we did is we took Country Club Estates and we joined them with the Arlington system, because the cost to upgrade, retrofit that was around $3-4 million.
Yeah, and the cost to tie it over to Arlington was about 1.5. So.
And that was all spread out through all the Arlington customers once the two districts were joined.
This is the configuration here. This is the old Country Club Estates plant that was abandoned. And then the trunk line ended up going a westerly direction and went through an existing casing that was underneath Route 9, in preparation for a sewage connection, we utilized that casing, and then it went into the Three Partners pump station. Because that casing existed, it allowed us to do this in a relatively cost-efficient manner.
Is there any more room in that casing, or is it?
I think a 6-inch diameter force main was put in. If there was ever any thought of development in this area, I reckon there'd probably have to be some EQ tanks installed on the east side of Route 9 in order to keep those flows contained and then have them pumped in the evening. But it is starting to get pretty tight in that area of the town.
How much room do you have left, say? Could you give us a guesstimate?
As far as,
If we wanted to put another force main pipe in through that casing, how?
For which property are you talking about, Peter?
We had an application for senior housing on the other corner of Route 9, across from, where BMW is located.
Oh, River Point.
The river, yeah,
Right.
Would they have enough room? Because I know they were gonna, I'm trying to remember now.
I don't know which way they were going.
I think that goes to the other plant, doesn't it?
Yeah,
River Point was
Goes to
the
Tri-Muni.
south.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's all this land here, there's the whole Casper Hill golf course that's still owned, that could be developed in the future, there's the whole
Right.
Kerr Farms, 130 acres just south of.
Part of
south there.
that is not in the sewer district, so they would have to, there was a buy-in to get into the district. There is one parcel that is owned by Silver that is in the district, but the rest of it is not in the district.
correct, yeah.
Okay. The parcel along Route 9 versus the back parcel, you think, or?
This parcel right here, I believe, was in the First Ward district, so there would be a buy-in to the Arlington district.
Okay.
I don't believe this parcel up here was in any district.
So that's just concerned, future development of things like that, what, is the piping big enough, as Peter's bringing up? So-
But it would be possible to put a pump station in, and me and Sean were looking at it the other day, because that parcel does abut Hagentown. So you could probably, if you needed to split the flows, you could send part of it north, and then the other part over across to the west side of Route 9. The problem we have over there is any major construction would need an upgrade to the Three Partners pump station, or the installation of massive EQ tanks. The problem you have with the EQ tanks is you have to aerate the sewage to keep it fresh, and then you end up with odor problems.
That's the pump station by Bonefish Grill.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there any area in the town where you think they're particularly old and, or
It's all old.
capacity is complete out?
All old.
All old?
All old.
It's,
Just to let you guys know, they had a collapse at Hudson River State Hospital property last night. That's an old line that's been in there before we were ever born. They're working on that now. But all our infrastructure is old. I mean, as you guys look outside, and it's a beautiful day today, me, Mark, and Keith know that everything under the ground isn't good. Right, guys?
Also, one other issue we're going to try to fix within the next year or so is upgrading this one section of trunk line. It's a 12-inch diameter pipe, and the reason why that is a 12-inch pipe and the rest of it's 22 inches is because it has a steeper slope. And when it was built in 1959, they figured that with the amount of flow, they calculated the energy gradient going through that pipe, and they figured that 12-inch was sufficient. But now at this point, 12-inch is not sufficient. We noticed that during a heavy rain, this portion of the trunk line has a restriction because of the 12-inch. And then it vents in this general area, and there've been a lot of odor complaints right at the intersection of Spagginkill and Route 9. So within the next year, we're planning on replacing this 12-inch or running another pipe parallel to it just to allow more capacity to pass through.
Okay, because that was the old Building 5 there, the square one is another project that got approved, that
Yes.
the office workers coming in there, that would add to that flow as well.
I think that force
They tie
main-
in on the larger line down below. They're actually going to put a pump
Okay,
station in,
okay.
and they're going to tie in, so there
won't
would be
be
no
that-
problem
so
with
it
them.
won't be that line.
Right, there's more than enough capacity on that line because it opens up to 22 inch.
Okay.
And that feeds the Arlington treatment plant on the back side of Route 9 on the west side.
I think, yeah, there's been some activity in there recently by the Cloverleaf, so I guess you were looking at maintenance or inspecting what the issues were there, I guess.
Yeah. Did remove, I think, 10 tons of rubble and debris inside of that trunk line within the last 5 months or so.
There's been three major collapses on Spattenkill, two for the force main for Spattenkill, one due to Irene and Lee it actually took out a catch basin at the corner of Schoolhouse at the firehouse, and it undermined the whole road, broke the sewer main, and all that stuff washed down in the sewer main. And then there was a major sewer break on the Route 9 line up by Barnes & Noble. So you got to remember, when this stuff all breaks, everything washes down the sewer line and the clogs, and we were talking a lot. So we've been, like Sean said, we took out a lot. We were there for probably a month, and we're still not done.
So, I mean, the known areas, you're doing preventive maintenance and trying to replace things, but then you have unexpected things like that show up.
We actually operate 47 pump stations throughout the town of Poughkeepsie. Any of them from 1,000 gallons a day up to 1 million. There's two that do 1 million gallons a day, one in the city of Poughkeepsie, Cottage Street, and then the Spattenkill pump station. So I got a crew that goes out and we check all our pump stations every day. Most of our pump stations are can pump stations. They're going on about 60 years old. Their life expectancy is about 10. The reason why they last 60 years old is because we check them 7 days a week.
Okay. You mentioned up at the Hudson Heritage property, you had a collapse, the sewer line.
Yes, sir.
Since it's going to be your headache, have you looked at the plans that they have to replace those lines? And
in the beginning of the project, when we sat with the developer, their question was, what could we use up there? And my question was, none of it. They have to rip it all out, and before we take over, they need to put everything new in. Their plan was they were going to replace the main trunk line that runs north and south on Route 9. It actually runs to a meter pit just north of the mobile station there. There's a caged-in area that you can see that's fenced in. That's our meter pit. That's where all the flow is metered before it goes into the city, to the city plant.
But you're satisfied they're proposing to fill in everything that's underground that's going to be abandoned?
They have to, they're all new structures. All their structures are coming out. Everything is going to be all brand new. They're going to float fill a lot. I don't have a problem with that. So
some of it will be crushed in place, right?
yes, some of it will be, some of it's be crushed in place. Yes.
And you feel comfortable with their
Yes.
plan?
None of it can be used.
Okay, I'm in the Stone Bridge area, which is off of Wilbur, Stonebridge, across from McCann. And we're tied into the city of Poughkeepsie, but I'm on the town side, and there's the city side. So whenever you have a cross-town issue like that, how do we deal with that? I mean, we're under the rules, I guess, of the city, because that's where we pay our water bill and our sewer bill too. But I think part of it, the first road, I forget the name of it, I think that they're tied into
Town
a
sewer.
pump station. It's right there in the front. But my question really is focusing on the fact that when we deal with cross the municipalities.
There's a reconciliation at the end of the year between the town and the city. They'll pay us for sewer, or we'll pay them for water, and it's just back and forth. Keith could explain more of that, how that works.
But if there's any issues, we deal with the city, we don't deal with the town.
Right. If it's in the city, you would call the city. If it's in the town, you would call us. Or you call us and we'll tell you that we'll call the city.
Okay. Because I know we're tied into the city portion of it.
Right. And you also have there's a pump station back
right there.
Right.
Which I believe the HOA has to maintain.
Yes.
Right.
And that's in the city.
Yes, I know.
It's had few problems I got some calls on it.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, well, thanks, guys. Any last minute questions? We got to move on to some water system as well.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks, Franco. Thanks, Franco. Enlightenment, we got to make sure our easements are in perpetuity kind of thing for maintenance.
Hello, I'm Keith Ballard. I'm the superintendent of the water department. What we'll do is the general dynamics of our system, we have over 210 mile of pipe, ranging in size from 30-inch down to 6-inch. We do have some 4, but not much. Most of our system is fairly new. 1971 is considered new and up. We do have a lot of old well districts that were tied into us. But we have over 3,000 fire hydrants and over 10,000 valves that we have, we do a service program on. We clean them out and make sure they operate. And we work with the highway department also. We go ahead of them when they're paving. If we know we have a bad valve, we'll dig it up and fix it before they go through there.
So you check you check the valves periodically to make sure you can shut off in case of emergency, or?
Yes, we have a valve program. We have a crew that goes around. That's all they do is blow out valves, clean them out, operate them. If they don't operate, then we dig them up, fix them. That's nonstop.
Unlike the sewer, I see that, from the map, it looks like most of the town is covered by water, only a few well areas. Is there some particular areas that are?
There is a few wells in town, but the town water is available to them. Town water is available 100%.
Okay, so if they want to hook up, it's available.
Correct. We can't force them.
Yep.
But normally if they buy a house, the bank is going to make them hook into municipal water if it's available.
Okay.
But every house should have a service left on their property. Now, we get our water from the city treatment plant, which we co-own, and we pump 2.2 billion gallons a year through our system. But we also feed some parts of Hyde Park and East Fishkill. And that's all billed through the Joint Water Board.
I mean, what's the daily consumption kind of thing?
We usually pump anywhere from 5.5 to 7 million a day. And we have enough room for expansion. Our pump station will pump 19 million gallons a day, and the treatment plant can put out 19 million a day. So we could actually probably bleed them dry. Well, we could bleed the city dry, which is not a problem. But out of that 2.2 billion, you got third-party users, which there's places where we sell the city water. We sell Greenbush, which is in Hyde Park, IBM, well, the old IBM Global Foundries. We feed them, and that's, like I say, billed through the Joint Water Board. But when I started in '75, the town was pumping 2.5 million gallons a day. And right now, just for town customers, we're pumping about 5. So it's doubled, but I can't see it going up that much more. Because most of the land's developed, but we do have the capacity, to pump more.
Sounds good. Yeah, the sewer's hurting a little bit more in that regard, but so pipes are generally sized sufficiently to this point.
Yes, our transmission mains, we have throughout the town, 30-inch, 24, 20-inch. 20-inch runs all the way down to the south end of town. And then they branch off with, most of them are 8-inch water mains.
Are there any areas where fire flow capacities are a problem?
Arlington,
Yeah.
I
mean, the Main Street section, right? Is that right?
right, they have low flow.
Right.
Because years ago, when they put the arterial in, we used to have a main that was tied from Locust Road into Arlington. In their infinite wisdom, they disconnected it. And that's tied into our 30-inch water main. So I've been trying to get a plan going forward to reconnecting that or running a new line. So they would give them, they have good pressure in Arlington. They have 70, 80 pounds of pressure, but it's just the fire flow. They're just above the limit.
Okay.
But there is things that we can do to help them out. That's one of the few areas where we have really low flow. There's places up in Fairview.
Okay.
Because we have 5 booster stations throughout the town, where there's higher elevations, like Arlington Hunt, You know, they're almost the same elevation as our 44 tank, because our system works off the 44 tank, the elevation, that's where the pressure comes from.
Okay.
It's the highest point in the town. That's 5 million gallon tank, so that floats on demand. And it's usually a 4-foot float usually from 29 feet down to 25. We keep it pretty full. But the only thing we are looking into also is, in the future, right now, we don't really have enough storage. You're supposed to have a day and a half storage in case the city plant went down. We just barely have it. So we're in the process of trying to get a grant to put a second 5 million gallon tank up on Barnes Drive. I feel that would be sufficient for any other development that's going to, go into the town.
Okay.
We tried to get a grant this year so we could start a feasibility study for the tank, but we were ineligible because we were already receiving grant monies for the Hagentown pump station. So that is something probably for next year that the town could entertain, is doing the feasibility study first, and then there would have to be a taking of the adjacent property, and then the actual design, and then the construction of the
Where are you
tank.
looking, where's that again?
I'll bring it up.
Barnes Drive?
Barnes, okay.
Yeah. And the county expressed the interest of going in on it with us because with their contract, they were supposed to build a tank within 5 years, a storage tank for that line going down to East Fishkill, and that was 15 years ago. And it's still not built, so they have some of our storage. So they're willing to kick in with it, and LaGrange and Pleasant Valley are also interested in tying in, so they could buy into the system and probably help, fund the tank.
That extra storage would help with the efficiency of the system operation, right?
Absolutely, yep. Yeah, because we have to keep at least 16 feet at all times in that tank, because if we drop below that, there's places like Route 9 on the north end that start dropping system pressure. And we do have a backup tank, which is 5 million gallons up to our Spackenkill plant, which we change the water in weekly, to keep it fresh. But that's a lower elevation, so I can't really float that tank. I could fill it off system pressure, and then we have to pump it back into the system.
You mentioned about 5 million gallons a day goes for town customers, and then the other, you said 5.5 to 7 million gallons per day is the total amount that we pump. Is most of that going to East Fishkill, or does that, where's that?
No, it goes to the city.
Oh, to the city.
They have 3 meter pits where they take water from us.
Okay.
And also, like I say, the Arbors is tied into us. Green Bush. Yeah. And also Southern Duchess.
Gotcha.
Wabager's Falls is not on us.
No, Wappingers Falls was on our system, but when we changed to chloramines, they threw a little bit of a fit, and they went back to their wells, which they're having problems with their wells, and they're talking about hooking back into our system, which is just turning a valve on a meter pit, so it's not a big deal. But we do supply quite a few, non-residents water.
Is there any plans ongoing to replace pipes as they age, or they're not sufficiently old enough yet? In the
Oh, yeah, we
system?
have some pipe that is quite old. Like all the old well districts that were tied in are old cast iron mains, and they break quite often. But the cost to replace pipe, we had a problem with Colburn Drive a few years back. That's where we had the chloramines, where we had to flush it every day. And we got a price on changing just that pipe. It was over $2 million.
Just
So
that
the
one-
replaced pipe
Just that
is
one
just-
on Culver, you're saying?
Yeah, just one water main on Colburn. It's usually over $100 a foot to install.
Well, there's also the complication of maintaining service to people that are already getting water. That's a big part of it too, right?
It is, but normally they just run a new main and
Right.
get it all
You have to
pressure
do a
tested.
parallel
They just
main,
go back
right.
and it's time consuming and, I'm sure Mark, since he paved that road, wouldn't be too happy. Although we do it quite often, dig through his new mains or
Mark had just paved, my road, and we got 2 breaks following month, just from rolling it, I guess, in Country Club Estates, as the pipes were old.
Yeah, well, back in the old days, they didn't really have inspectors per se. Like Colburn sits right on top of rock. Every time we get a break, there's a piece of rock
Yeah,
where it's sitting on.
Same in my neighborhood, it's
Yeah.
solid rock. underneath, so-
Hagentown is older. We have a lot of breaks in there. There's like 2 or 3 areas where we have quite a few problems, but it's much cheaper to just fix than replace.
Okay.
It's really not feasible. It would cost the town so much money. We normally average about 28 breaks a year, which seems like a lot, but our operating loss unaccounted for water this year was about 1%, which is outstanding. 15% is industry standard. The city's like 25 to 30%. We do our own leak detection. We have 3 or 4 guys that go out. Most of our guys are trained, but we'll have, 3 or 4 guys go out and just do leak detection, random leak detection. And anything we find, we fix right away.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
the
that was my next question was how much is leaking throughout the system?
1%
Okay, not bad.
is a drop in the bucket.
No pun intended.
I like using that phrase.
Now, I have to tell you, you are to be congratulated. That 1%, that's remarkable. It really is. Are Frank Wells, are they still up and running?
Frank Wells, no.
They're out.
No.
When you lose the tank in Spackenkill, where does that, you do that once a month? Where does that
No,
water?
we do it weekly.
You do it every week. Where does that water go?
Goes into the system.
Oh, it does. So you just basically let it go back into the system?
Yep, we try to keep that tank full at all times, just in case there's an emergency. But, you can't let it sit there because it'll get stagnant.
Sure.
The new tank, we're gonna put aerators in, and when we put a new tank in, we take the old one offline and aerate that also. That keeps the water moving, keeps it fresher. But, we have to pump it out, like I say, because it's against system pressure. It's lower elevation in our 44 tank.
Okay.
And we have a hydrant program also. They have to be serviced every 3 years. So we broke the town up into 3 different sections, and every year we'll do a section. But we're way ahead of the game this year. We've already serviced 1,600 out of the 3,000 hydrants. That's serviced, painted.
Sounds great.
It keeps them busy.
Yep, keeps us drinking.
And this program we have for mapping is just amazing. I mean, it shows where our hydrants are, shows where our valves are, because hopefully I'm going to retire next year. And this way, the younger guys will be able to, I don't really need to look at maps. I'm not bragging, I just been around it forever. There's probably 3 or 4 of us at the town that don't look at maps. We can tell you what size main on any road.
Yep, just.
There was a time when nobody knew, as you know, where anything was.
Yeah, well, we still have some hand-drawn maps.
Yeah.
From stuff we acquired from the city, like on Fulton Street. Those are all hand-drawn maps, and who knows if they're right.
There was one on the wall, in Spackenkill at the office there, and that pretty much was it. After that, you're on your
But now
own.
we've gone through all our old maps, and we combined them, and this system is just going to be a big benefit to everybody.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're not as bad off as that City of Ember movie where if you ever saw that.
Yeah, well, the city's
putting duct tape,
city's
duct tape
another
down it all the
story.
time, and so we're in good shape. All right, thanks for your presentation.
Not a problem.
Any other quick questions?
Any
And
other
we'll get to
questions?
Highway.
No, we're good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it. Come on down, Mark.
That's the last, Mark.
No. Those guys talked for a few more minutes, we could have skipped me. I'm Mark Pfeiffer, I'm the Town of Poughkeepsie Highway Superintendent. Those guys have said most of the stuff that's in there. Our department, we have 148 miles of road that we maintain. I do all your snow plowing, your tree trimming, catch basins. We have about 6,000 of them that we take care of. We maintain the sidewalks in the wintertime for a lot of them, for the snow blowing through Arlington. I do the transfer station. We do your leaf pickup. I'm sure there's a few other things, but we had a pretty good, been doing pretty good for about the last 4 or 5 years with the road paving. We've been paving about 30 roads a year, so mile-wise, we're probably doing 10 to 15 miles of road a year, which is good. It's what we really need to do every year. We haven't done that in a long time, but with doing that, we're doing pretty good. We're over 100 roads for the last 3 years, so we're catching up. I think everybody can see a difference as you're going around. That a lot of the roads there's still a lot to go, but a lot of them are in real good shape. The new developments, they're nice for us when we get those. All the new pipes they're plastic and pretty much self-cleaning, so it's a nice thing when we get those. We know we don't have to go in there for a lot of years when they're there with the inspections that we have now. We have a lot of old pipes left, a lot of old drainage pipes that are in there that are they're metal. We have concrete pipe and metal. The concrete lasts pretty good, but we have a lot of old galvanized metal pipe that's in there. So we do get our share that collapses too. So our same way our underground system needs some help, but same way Keith was saying, it's easier to fix it when it goes bad than it is to try to replace everything. It would cost a fortune. So when we pave the roads, we're going in, we make sure all the catch basins are good, and we look at the pipes, and if they're bad, then we do change pieces. But for the most part, it's not too bad. So, and also, like they were saying, the new map system that we're doing is going to be very helpful to us, because when you're out in the field, we can find catch basins that, if you're unaware where they are, a lot of them get buried in people's yards and everything else, and it's a big help for everything. So,
drainage is probably the hardest structure to I locate out in the field, because a lot of times there are pipes that we've never seen before, or sometimes it's difficult to actually get to the end of the culvert, or if they're in the easement or whatnot. But we're trying to get the maps finalized, and it's going to take a couple years to get them all up to date.
Our worst section of the drainage
until all the maps are up to date.
Our worst section of the drainage is probably in the second ward. We have a whole area starts in Red Oaks Mill, goes down all through Sutton Park, and it's just a very flat area. There's a lot of they're like open waterways and swales that go through the backs of houses, and over the years everybody throws all their brush and their grass and their leaves into them, and it makes it very tough. So and we really don't have easements to get in them. So that's our worst section. I know Bill Carlos has been working on a plan to do a study to see what it would take to get in there to clean it up, if we can even get in there to do it. It's going to be very expensive, I'm sure, but that's probably our worst area that we have.
Okay, so easement, yeah, like Franco mentioned, easement maintenance is an issue for you as well.
It is, for sure, yeah. When you go, it's been 50 years, and people have been throwing everything that they have over the bank and behind their house and everything else, and to get to them, it's a big project. So,
I mean, just for an example, this one area here between Manetti, and I think this is Pleasant down here. This is a wetland, and it also has a culvert that's about 30 inches by 24 inches elliptical upstream, and then it basically dumps into a swale that has a lot of debris, trees that have fallen over, and to get in there you need a wetland disturbance permit in order to dredge it out, and you also need easements too, so it's not a task, but like Mark said, Bill Carlos has been really trying to spearhead all those efforts, and He's trying to find grant money in order to pay for studies and for construction in the future.
And in order to clean them out too, it needs to be dry, which hasn't happened in a while.
Yeah.
So it makes it difficult.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions for me?
Since you mentioned that in the second ward, do you think most of the groundwork has been laid in terms of identifying what has to get done and how to do it?
I know we have laid, what has to get done, how to do it is the part that's not there yet.
Yeah.
It would, I mean, if it could get done, it would be a wonderful, wonderful thing. Because that's where all our, most of the trouble is down there like
Sure.
that. It's,
Also, I can tell you that as soon as if it snows, as soon as you leave the town of Poughkeepsie, because you do such a great job.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we have 25 of us and all the guys, they really take pride in keeping the roads cleared. And we get help from the water department as well. They help us pick up trucks with the dead ends. That we've been doing that for a few years, and that's been a real big help to us. So if we have a pickup truck with a bigger truck, when they go in, it saves a lot of time. It really makes things work well. But thank you.
I also appreciate when you took over to start up the brush drop during the
Transfer-
summer.
yeah.
Transfer station, that's been helpful.
We average about 500 cars that come in to see us each time
Yeah.
when the transfer station's open, and it stays busy. Our line will
There's always a
go
line
down
on
past
that.
Uno's. Yeah, so it gets quite busy. But we do about a car a minute
Wow.
when they're coming in. We're open from 7 to 12, and we average about a car a minute. So we try to get you through as fast as we can.
Yeah, when I mention that to other people, that we have those things in the leaf vacuum, they want to move to the town of Poughkeepsie.
So we do offer
it's
quite a few
great.
services. It's good. So.
Are you still sharing the tub grinder with the city?
No, we haven't had that in a long time. Sharing that, it first started out okay, but once we had it 4 or 5 years, sharing it with the city, it started to break. And then who was going to fix it didn't work out. It ended up getting sold. So it's been gone for at least 15 years. It's quite a while that it's been gone. We have a pretty good program with that. We bring them all over here to Tucker Drive, and Duffy Layton has a bigger machine that grinds them all up. He grinds them and takes them. So they're usually, after we finish picking them up it's usually the second week in December, hopefully first, second week in December, and they're usually cleared out by the first week in January. They're gone. So, and he turns them back into topsoil, so it all does good green things. It's going right back into the earth.
Are we still taking the leaves over to Vassar Farm?
No, that's where with the tub grinder, we were over there, and the city was bringing brush in and all that stuff, and we didn't do any of that, and it got to be a big mess. They had a different company that came in that was trying to grind and all that, and that just turned into a whole mess. So we pulled out of there about 4 years before the city did. We started having Duffy Layton do it. Duffy's been doing it for quite a few years now, and it's so much cleaner, and it's over. They're not sitting around, and so they're not the most pleasant smelling things when you move them.
Yeah.
So get them going as quick as we can is better.
Mark, if I could, one of the things that's come up lately, especially with Hudson Heritage, is culdesacs and roundabouts. Can you talk to the board about your opinion of those and how that affects you as far as like snow plowing and things like that?
Yeah, in the cul-de-sacs, when they're designed, the older ones, there's never any room to put snow. So we've had with Hudson Heritage, they've came in and it looks great on paper when they do it. They do a cul-de-sac with kind of a roundabout in the middle. Unfortunately, that's a nightmare for us to plow it. There's nowhere for us to put it. So, it's hard enough because they're round. To plow something round is not that easy. So, I had suggested to them that, with the roundabouts, if they would remove them from the dead ends, it makes it a lot easier. And if they can leave us a little area to put the snow so it's not on the road, or if they don't, then someone has a big pile of it in their yard, and they don't like that either. So it makes it difficult. Like the roundabouts that would be over in Arlington here, they're not bad if it's a continuation of a road. But when it's in a cul-de-sac, it makes it very difficult for us.
Okay. We're looking at Hudson Heritage. As you know, they're going to be dedicating roads to the town. Any heads up for us based on what you've seen so far, things that we should be
that was the main thing that we had discussed with Andy and CPL there, that they had, with changing the cul-de-sacs around. I don't think everything that they're doing at first is private through the area that has all the retail and the apartments and all that, and where the houses are comes later. So I think we're a few years away from that, I would think. But yeah, other than that, everything looks okay. It's just with the cul-de-sacs, keeping them, the easier the better for us. So that, I know sometimes it looks nice to have a tree planted in the middle, and to go around it, but no one maintains it, no one cuts the lawn. So it ends up, within a few years, it doesn't look very attractive anymore. It's just similar to the medians that the state puts down on Route 9. When they put them in, they're all great, but it costs us a fortune to maintain them. And it's difficult with all the traffic.
So that's town responsibility to
Yeah.
maintain those state
Yeah, it is.
state road
So
medians.
we put that out to, it gets contracted out now and do it. But last year, the contract, the people that got the award, they didn't want it after that, so it got left to us. So between the highway and recreation, we cleaned it out, and it took us, we were probably down there a week pulling all the weeds out and everything and trying to get it really, you have to stay right on it. It's not an easy thing.
Same for Route 55?
Yeah. Route 55 is a little easier because it doesn't have the plants, it just has the trees. So it's not quite as bad with it. But everything gets so overgrown. It all looks
Yep.
pretty when they do it. And then they give it to us.
About, quick question on pavement. When you paved about 10 to 15 miles a year, how long on average does the pavement last so that you had to round
The rule of thumb is you should revisit a road every 15 years.
15 years? Okay.
So if you can stay on that 10 to 15 mile amount, you do great. But we went for a lot of years, we were probably only doing like 3. And, and at that rate, you're not going to be back to a person's road for 40 years.
Right.
It's not going to look good by
Yeah,
then.
150 miles into town.
Yeah.
It's, 10 miles is a good.
You need to do 10 miles a year.
Is a good,
Yeah.
or more is a good.
So you need to have,
Great.
you need to have about 3 million available a year at least. And we fortunately had a bond that we renewed a couple years back, and that's been doing very good for us, but it's about to run out. This will be our last year of that unless we do something again to get some more money. And it'd be nice to keep going because it's we're not patching the bad spots like we used to all winter as much. It makes it nice for all the way around, especially for the plowing.
Bridges in the town, good shape?
Bridges, yes, we are. Our bad one was down in New Hamburg, that we had the metal bridge, and that was replaced about 3 years ago. Metro North owned the structure, so they replaced that, put a new water line on it and everything, and so we're really in pretty good shape with bridges. We don't have anything that's about to fall or flagged or anything like that. We're in decent shape.
Yeah, good question. There's a lot of bridges in the state in trouble.
Yeah, we don't have that many. As far as for a town our size, there's really not that many bridges.
All right, thanks, Mark. Anybody else have a highway question? Okay, appreciate all you guys
Thank
coming
you.
in, and I didn't expect these to be able to look around at the maps so online as we did it. So that was terrific.
Yeah, the new program is really going to be a benefit to all of us.
Yeah, you can use the program wirelessly out in the field. The crew can take an iPad,
tablet or
Yeah,
something, and
exactly.
find things easier, and that's
Yeah, it should be a game changer. So
especially important as retirements are coming up, as some of you guys had mentioned. So appreciate all the years you've had with the town, and continue on.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in,
care.
everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
All right.